Members of Congress are spending more money than ever on their personal security. It's a tragic reflection of the times we live in. Gabby Giffords was shot meeting with constituents in Arizona. Steve Scalise was shot practicing for a charity baseball game. Elected officials on both sides of the aisle have been threatened with all manner of violence. Because of these acts and threats of violence, members of Congress are allowed to spend campaign money on their safety. Some members of Congress even travel with personal security when they're in their districts and states. There's also a police presence when requested for members of Congress. The Capitol itself is heavily guarded. Police are everywhere. There are metal detectors and dogs trained to detect guns and explosives and panic buttons and restricted access. And you name it, and it's there. Safety is priority number one for members of Congress, as it should be. But what about you? Are you safe? Do you feel safe? Could your neighborhood benefit from greater police presence? Is your place of work armed with metal detectors and guard dogs? Are the streets you walk and ride down lined with police cars? Do you have personal security when you travel? I understand full well why members of Congress spend money on their personal safety. I just don't understand why some members of Congress don't feel the same way about your safety. If their safety is the highest priority, shouldn't your safety be too? Cori Bush represents St. Louis, Missouri in Congress. She wants to defund the police. Well, let me be more precise. She wants to defund your police, but not her police. She spent nearly $70,000 on her own personal security last year. I don't know about your city or state, but $70,000 would get you your own personal police officer in South Carolina, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Cori Bush tells us she is progressive. The better word might be hypocritical. She wants to defund your police while she has a robust personal security detail in Washington and St. Louis. And that sends the clear message that her safety is more important than yours. And speaking of St. Louis, do you know what would happen if you were supposed to be in court and did not show up? I'll tell you what would happen. You would be in jail for contempt of court. Prosecutors in St. Louis failed to show up for court and murder cases were dismissed. Not shoplifting cases, not drug cases, murder cases. And these murder cases were not dismissed because of a lack of evidence, and they were not dismissed because they arrested the wrong person for the wrong crime. The prosecutor did not show up for court on multiple occasions. And the prosecutor's office in St. Louis is also run by yet another progressive named Kimberly Gardner. And that office is a living, breathing train wreck. Felony cases are being dismissed in record numbers. Prosecutors aren't showing up for court. Cases are being assigned to prosecutors who are out on maternity leave. And because that office is a disaster, prosecutors are quitting that office in staggering numbers. When Kimberly Gardner ran to be the top prosecutor for St. Louis, we knew she would be soft on crime and hard on the police. That's what progressive prosecutors are. When you go to Kimberly Gardner's campaign website, it's the normal platitudes you expect from these so-called progressive prosecutors. Less prison, more social workers. Soft on crime, but hard on cops. And then lots of psychobabble about reimagining crime. But I did see one thing that stuck out. She said she would, quote, attack and prevent violent crime. Attack and prevent, she said. How about you show up for court and not let murder cases get dismissed? What if we just start there? Crime is the toughest tax of all on the poor. You look at the neighborhoods where the violent crime is taking place, and it's not country clubs and gated communities. It is neighborhoods that cannot afford to pay $70,000 for their own personal protection. It's communities where you actually have to show up for court when your case is called. If you truly care about the poor, then help keep them alive and keep their homes from being burglarized and their property from being stolen. Funding your own police force while you advocate to cut the police for others is not progressive. It's hypocritical. Allowing murder cases to be dismissed because you can't even show up for court is not progressive. It's incompetent. If you really want to defund the police, start with your own. And if you really want to attack and prevent violent crime, show up for court. Otherwise, crime remains just another tax on the poor, a tax they often pay with their lives. And that doesn't sound very progressive to me.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.